Hi everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes.
are.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for investing your time with us on this Sunday morning to join us for an insightful session about women power. We are all well aware of the fact that our personal growth comes with a lot of challenges. Today, we have an amazing panel discussion on learning from challenges women face across geographies and industries. This panel discussion will be moderated by Ms. Geeti Panikar, a dear friend. She's working as SVP, Head of Enterprise Risk, HSBC Bank, Singapore. She has an experience of 16 years in the corporate banking and risk industry. We have Ms. Haka Tan, who is currently the head of people operations with Grab Singapore. Hi, Haka, and welcome. A company that is committed to empower Southeast Asia through technology, opening up income opportunities to all groups of people, regardless of background or ability. In her role as a human resource professional, Haka's work has been focusing on talent planning, development, and leadership coaching. Next, we have Ms. Parazad Kampani, who's currently the CEO and co-founder of Buddy. Previously, she was the head direct tax at Standard Chartered Bank. Parizad has also worked with ICICI Bank and has spent over 2 decades in the banking industry. We welcome you, Parizad. Uh, Next with us is Amrita Biswas. I think she's facing some tech issue and would request the moderator to try to pull her main stage. I can see her in the audience. Ms. Amrita Biswas, HR business partner, head Inner West Government of NSW Australia, a seasoned HR professional with 16 years of specialist experience ever evolving field of HR integration for amalgamations and mergers, employee engagement, and HR business partnering with business heads to strengthen service delivery models. Following Amrita, we have Ms. Seema Seth. After 25 years in the corporate world as an HR professional and corporate trainer, Seema's focus is now in the field of social development. In 2014, she set up Nai Disha, a school for children from marginalized communities in Harijan Basti in DLF Phase 5 Gurgaon. Would like to welcome Ms. Himani Kapadia, currently working as the Global CEO at More. A chartered accountant by qualification, Himani brings to the table over 25 years of diverse experience. She has a sound understanding of business, finance, strategy, technology, media, digital, leadership, and management, a truly rare and potent combination. Let's get started with the panel introductions. And I would request, in case Miss Amrita is not able to come main stage, we will try to pull her main stage in the end by if she can raise her hand at the end of the discussion, and we'll pull her main stage. Over to you, Ms. Geeti.
Thank you, Rajpreet, and it's a great honor and pleasure to be a part of this SAGES convention, talking to all the amazing women and men who are supporting. And before we begin the panel, I really want to wish all of you a very happy International Women's Day week. So this entire week, we have been all part of different panels, diversity events, and we have been getting together to support amazing Wonder Women in you as well as around you. So thanks for raising awareness about the diversity and inclusion issues, which is plaguing around the world and particularly accelerated by the COVID challenges. So today I will go to these eminent panelists to discuss about whether the challenges that women are facing are different or unique across geographies as well as industries. So because they all come from diversified background, we can understand our similarities, resonate with their divergences, and also understand what they do to resolve some of these challenges across the world. So let me go to the first panel. Sarkar. So, Harka, I am new to Singapore, and one thing I really notice, it's a very progressive country. Very progressive country with a lot of women participation in the labor force. And in fact, I looked up the stat and saw that it's 42%. And even in the parliament, we had close to one-third representation from women. But if you really look at the funnel, the senior management positions are much less occupied by women, and that's not unique for Singapore. I think that's a feature across the world, except certain unique countries. So, what is your thought around some of the challenges? Because you've worked across geographies also. What are some of the challenges women face in progressing their careers?
Sure, thank you. So I'll probably start with the one thing that I think it's that I've seen and observed through my experience in the companies I've worked for, but also with the network that I've interacted with. I think one thing that really stands out is really stereotyping, right? And especially in Asia, there's still this stereotype of people, of women being still inferior in terms of our career aspiration or even our capabilities. And I'm not talking about stereotyping around, oh, she's a woman, that's why she tends to be a bit more emotional. We hear that sometimes. But some stereotyping are not with bad intent, but it has a bad outcome. For example, there can be managers who are very dear to employees' career development who will think, you know what, I think I might have to excuse her from this project because she might need more time with her family. This will actually take time away from her family. And it's not just also stereotyping by people around us, but also by ourselves that we might see that, hey, I need to maybe take a step back, etc. So I think when we still have this stereotyping, whether it's in the workplace or the environment that we are in, it naturally narrow the opportunities for us women, right? For example, there can be conversations around within leaders and managers, and they will probably say things like, you know what, let's not talk about her career development, right? Let's not put her through this talent management program because she might not be able to balance, right, her work and the multiple hats that she has to wear in the family. So if you think about this, naturally women tends to get left out, right? And women then have to choose. They have to choose either to take a back seat or maybe have to rally for herself even harder than versus the other gender, right? And I think this, because of this stereotyping, sometimes there can be also a perception of benefits in company that are meant to support family, but people think of it as, oh, this is extra benefits that we need to offer for the woman gender, right? For example, family care leave, for example, or work-life balance initiatives. These are not just for women, right? These are actually for all the employees, so that employees, regardless of your gender, can actually support, right, your family system, right? And this actually then be able to provide, kind of equal opportunities for both men and women to actually split their time up between their family and also their work. So if you think about this, when the environment does not have that support system, this may lead to self-doubt in the woman gender. Do I really have the equal chance to be successful, right? You know what, maybe I'm not good enough. That's why they didn't put me up for promotion. That's why I'm not considered. And it's a vicious cycle. And hence, like you said, right, that's why the pipeline kind of get less and less or weaker by weaker in terms of family representation as we progress up the ladder. So I think the theme for this year, International Women's Day, is very apt, dare to challenge, right? It's about speaking up when you, either man or woman, see something wrong or you want to stand up for yourself. But it's also for us, right, regardless man and woman again, to challenge our own stereotyping, right? To kind of consider what are our blind spots, what are our bias that we need to start reconsidering. And I think with that, we'll probably have a more robust conversations around how to, in general, have people successful in their workplace, regardless of their gender.
Superb. I think you touched upon three main areas: challenging the stereotypes, challenging own self-limiting beliefs, and challenging the work-life balances and policies which are required to ensure participation is improved. So thank you so much for those introductory remarks. These are some of the common challenges which every other geography faces. So let me go to Australia now. Amrita Biswas, who's joining from Australia. There is something unique about Australia is if you look at 2006 gender equality stats, which came from global reports, Australia was ranking 15th. And over time, if you look at the next 14 years, there are regulations which have been enacted. There have been a lot of supportive system. However, the gender equality ranking has come down over time. And I'm sure the pandemic has really reversed a lot of progress. And this is not unique about Australia, but many other countries. So I want to ask Amrita, how do women in Australia cope with these challenges? Are there any strategies that you can recommend to other people? Amrita? Oh, okay. So Amrita, are you able to talk? Okay, she had some issues, so maybe I will park this question and until she joins. I'll go to Parizad next, who comes from banking industry. So she has spent 2 decades in banking industry, and I want to ask her, how has your experience been seeing challenges women face banking industry versus other industry? Also, how have you started your own company, your own entrepreneurship journey? What are the challenges that you see women face when they start as an entrepreneur?
Thank you, Nidhi. Over the past 20-25 years experience in the banking industry, one very unique thing that stands out for women is the fire in the belly. At every point in time, I've seen that fire in every woman to prove herself, because in a male-dominated field, when you're working, you actually underestimate yourself and overperform. So there's always a fire in the belly, and you have the best performers in women. But the biggest challenge, which I've observed over the period and tried to mentor a few, is visibility and the networking. I think networking is an area which women need to focus on, because today, if your skills, your performance, your work is not getting appropriate visibility and through networking, then somewhere you, as Harp rightly touched upon, you are stereotyped in a particular bracket, and then you are going on with your mundane activities, performing well, going unnoticed. So networking becomes very important to get that visibility, to find your own mentors, to find your role model, to mix with people, get into meaningful conversations, also create some impactful conversations. It also helps you do some introspective sessions to know what is the work you're doing, how you're contributing to the company, how important you are, or are there some mistakes you're doing at your end? You need to change yourself. So networking is very important. Unfortunately, due to say home duties and all, women tend to lag behind when it comes to networking. So if there is a social event where it's after office hours, you find a lot of women kind of miss out those events, and they're no longer in sight, when there is, an opportunity available to mix. So being working in the banking industry, now we have largely our back offices in, say, Chennai. Chennai has a huge team of women. In fact, the number of women is more than men who support the banking functions. And that's across, so Chennai and Bangalore. So when you look at the networking effect, that's a big gap, because when it comes to social events or when it comes to various engagement activities, you find women taking a step behind, and by virtue of which you find them not getting noticed for what rightly they should be. So I think networking is a key important challenge which I've observed, at least in the banking scenario. Vis-a-vis other industries, I guess it's a similar challenge, because many women in general tend to prioritize. I think the guilt of a working mother giving time to the child is so high that she tends to skip events after office and all. So I think you just need to strike that balance, prioritize a little bit, even from your career perspective, and just manage it out. So my only advice would be networking, very important, and always find your role model, find your mentor. And from the entrepreneur point of view, yes, I'm very new to this after 20 years in the banking field. The mindset of a businesswoman, yes, you will have certain prejudices. You feel women don't have negotiation skills. Maybe somewhere they can do good bargaining on the house front. And when it comes to business negotiations and deals, people do have a bias. And but it's enjoy. I mean, women make a stronger workforce at times. And I think between banking and entrepreneurship, I don't see much difference between industry and business. So that's my experience till now. Hopefully, mindsets are changing. A lot of progressiveness. The DNI boost in companies, I think, is also helping. But women should take that opportunity, just not help the companies tick off a DNI quotient, but actually get involved. Thank you.
Geeti, you're on mute.
You touched upon two important ends in women's life, and not just women. I would say all people who are aspirational. One is the networking, and second is the negotiation. So thank you so much. And I think networking is viewed as a culturally something negative, like a self-promotion. In HSBC, we have something called I Am Remarkable session, where women are really empowered to believe in themselves that, look, each one of you, both men and women, are remarkable. There is no harm in projecting your true self and gaining the support from everyone around to further your skills as well as further your purpose and contribute wider. So I call it connect working. So thank you so much. I'll go to the next panelist, who's Seema. She's coming from the social sector, so very much connected with the grassroots. So Seema, ma'am, how has your experience been working in social sector, seeing the progress of women still facing challenges in a patriarchal society?
Yeah, so thanks, Geeti. After having spent 25 years in the corporate world, and then in the last 7 years, I've been working in the social sector. I started Daidisha in March 2014. In fact, I just complete 7 years. And I feel that, the stereotypes remain the same. Regardless of whether it's the corporate world or the social development sector, the stereotypes remain the same. Let me say something here. In every phase of our life, in every stage of our life, we have a man telling you what you're doing is not right. You can't do it. How can you do it? Questioning your ability to do something. First, it's your father, then it's your husband, then it could be your brother, then it could be your son. So at every stage of your life, there is a man saying, think about it. I don't think you can do it. So basically, those are the barriers that we need to break. And I think, my experience with the social development sector is that if you today look back, more and more women are working in the development sector, and more of them are as successful as you want them to be, because they come into the social development sector with a purpose in mind. And it is not about the monetary gain or the financial gain. It is about a purpose that you have to achieve. And since I have been associated with the development sector and I have worked with a lot of women, in fact, I have a team of 10 women who work with me, and all the other NGOs that I am associated with, I feel it is dominantly women, who are working with them, because probably the compassion and the kind of feelings that they add to the entire sector is truly something which adds so much more value. So I just think that it's the barriers, and these are the social the barriers that are created in our minds, the stereotypes that the lack of confidence that confidence, who's going to Shiv Kumar's session earlier. And he says, these are behaviors which lie within our control. And it is a behavior to say, okay, can I do it? Am I going to make a success of it? And why do I let other people dominate my thoughts or mindset? Because if I have set my mind to do something. And in the social development sector, most of us go in there with the thought that you're going to make a difference to somebody else's life. And if you think clearly, and if you feel that there's nothing that can stop me, and let me also tell you, the challenges in the development sector are much more, because you're working in a very unstructured environment. You are moving around in an environment which may not be comfortable at times. You deal with people who are not maybe as literate or educated as you are. So you are working in an environment which is absolutely alien from what you may have done in the corporate world or even in your own homes. So when you enter this development sector, you come with the intent to say that I am going to make it happen, regardless of whether I have my work-life balance over there. Because one thing that the development sector offers you is flexibility, and probably that is why women are more successful in the development sector, because they are able to manage their work-life balance better, and they understand the hardships of a woman who is actually working in a basti or is actually working in other people's homes. And probably that is the empathy and that's the passion which brings about the change in their mindsets. And that's how they start thinking differently. And that's how they feel that, yes, we are going to be able to make that change. Because if those people, and I'll give you an example, uh, you know, um, uh, I was associated with an NGO which was teaching women to be drivers. And one day, a woman. So there was this woman who was coming against a whole lot of resentment from the husband. And one day, she came with her finger broken, because when she was leaving for her driving class, the husband said, "I will not let you drive," and he broke her finger. He just broke her finger and said, "Now go and learn to drive." It didn't stop her. It didn't stop her. She picked up her children. She went to her mother's home because her mother was very supportive, and she continued to work. And I'm sure you have seen a lot of these women drivers in the pink Merus, or these Sakha taxis, and they're across everywhere, and mainly in Delhi. And that's the kind of attitude you see in these women, and nothing deters them, because I think it's the belief in yourself. If you think that you want to do something, regardless of where you are and what you want to do, I think you can make it happen. And that's so like I said, there is no difference between the corporate world and the social world. It's all in your mind. And if you can set your mind to make a difference to what you're doing, and if you believe in yourself, I don't think there's anything stopping you. I mean, I have 10 other women who work with me, and they belong to reasonably good or low class families. But they've all joined me and they've been with me for the last 7 years, because they believe that, yes, we are going to make a difference to the lives of the children that we are, educating, because we want to make them citizens who will add value to any community that they are going to be working with. So I just feel there is no difference. It's just the differences in the way you think and the way you want to be, and what you would like to do.
Thank you, Seema ma'am, for bringing those unique challenges women in unorganized sectors face, in a less secure environment, maybe a lot more subject to domestic violence and financial insecurity. But you shared a woman's story who's really inspiring, that despite all of that, she decided that nothing is going to stop her, or she's an unstoppable woman.
And I think that goes for all of us. If we decide
Yes.
we set our mind on doing something, we'll make it happen.
Absolutely. So 2 years ago, I was attending the Economic Times Women Summit, and one thing I really noticed, that all the panelists who came are women achievers. But if you hear their story, all of them had tremendous struggle. None of them got it so easy. So that's the point ma'am is also taking, that we may have lots of challenges, but it's only in our mind and our ecosystem. If we build that ecosystem, nothing is major a challenge in life. So thank you ma'am to remind me those days too. So I'll now progress to Himani Kabadia. Let me ask you about external environment at work, apart from the core job. What are your views about boys clubs in organization, and have you seen similar groups in women also? And is it numbers issue, or women don't do enough to help other women?
So boys clubs and organizations exist today also. Unfortunately, they stem from the old age notion of the office is for men and the home is for women. And today you largely see it in organizations that are almost exclusively run by men. So then it gets reflected in their hiring, their sponsorships, mentorships, opportunities that are created, etc. And then it just becomes a vicious cycle where it continues through the organization. I haven't seen any large similar groups in women. But I mean, honestly, I think women, instead of trying to beat men at their game, should just try and form their own clubs. And I mean this in a positive way. I mean, men's clubs exist because they offer solidarity and they offer exclusivity because they can control access. I mean, that's why they exist even today. And I think women there should be two things. One is the ability to, support women by enlisting the right people from leadership and management. And the other thing is, I don't even think women need to depend on leadership taking initiatives. I think women should create their own support networks, which can help other women creating opportunities, mentoring other women in whatever sense you can help them, to recognize that their abilities are there and, they can leverage these and have a voice. And I think the other thing is it's also important for women leaders to talk about, their own experience and take this into their fold as well and, do that role for other women. Organizations today, luckily, are acknowledging the importance of gender diversity and, the advantage of having women in the workforce, right from increased productivity and therefore profitability, diverse perspectives that they bring to the table, retention, etc. And I think the other thing is, just educating people about hiring biases, which may be unconscious, like the other panelists have discussed before as well. So changing recruitment policies, making people aware of biases, which they may not be aware of today. And while I say, yes, things are changing, I think we are still a long way to go before we actually say there's equality. But yeah, I think it's going in the right direction, at least since the last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you, Himani. Thank you. You shared some of the tips that women can really use and to support themselves as well as other women through changes in hiring practices, offering mentor, and even being role models. Successful women should be role model and even mentor other women. So there's a lot of supportive practices that we ourselves can bring in. And as a last question, yeah,
we are over time, so
okay, sure.
Sorry, we need to wrap up.
Yeah, sure. So I think this was a very insightful panel, sharing a lot of views. But one thing I wanted to say before I wind up, COVID-19, all the latest reports show that the progress that the world has achieved over the last decade has been reversed, and we are back to 2017 level. Now, if we have to move forward as unstoppable women, it's not just women's duty. It's a male ally as well as women's duty to bring back the progress in this decade. And this is not just a gender diversity issue, it's also an economics issue. So it says if gender diversity and equality is achieved, it can add even $13 trillion to the GDP. So if that is the case, then it's everybody's interest to make the world more inclusive. And this should start from home, just as it continues to be equal in corporate world. So thank you so much to all my fellow panelists for their insightful sharing of challenges. The challenges remain the same, but your tips for resolving were also very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to all the participants as well. So we will be ending the session now and starting our next one. So please join the next session. Thanks to all the panelists.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.